Thank you very much for joining me for this session of Dr. Plotzker's Mind. My weekly uh, presentations, now about 2 years in creation, almost never create any controversy. I talk about travels and holidays and some of the foibles that a retired suburbanite uh, needs to cope with. But this time, uh, I need to venture into a subject with a little bit more bite. Like many people, October 8th changed me. It changed my perception of what people are like. It changed my experience of people willing to support things that they shouldn't be willing to support. And people willing to isolate me for who I am, irrespective of my sincere tendency to default toward kindness and to value kindness above most other things. The irony is that in the coming week, I find myself embracing uh, not kindness, but extortion to uh, promote civility. And in my mind, unnecessary uh, extortion. As a regular reader to the forward, I received my daily news feed, which included an article copied from the Jewish Telegraphic Agency. It described an agreement that Columbia University, where I once spent a glorious summer studying physical chemistry more than 50 years ago, had reached an agreement to avoid losing an enormous sum of federal research grants. The agreement included a few items. One is that um, protesters could not shield their identity with masks, with an exception for medically appropriate masks and some religious uh, facial covering. The university agreed to appoint an oversight committee to objectively assess and independently assess some of the controversies with their own departments that have gotten a little out of hand from what an Ivy League institution ought to be doing. And they agreed to hire a specified number of security officers with training in addressing harassment. Now, all of these things could have been done by the university unilaterally, and I think should have been done by the university unilaterally, whether by economic threat or voluntary assessment of what is the right thing to do, to have shalom bayit or peace on campus, uh, and safety for the students should be a high priority for the university. But they didn't have the fortitude, they didn't have the uh, willingness to risk negative feedback. So, a person who I think is a very odious president became that um, mediocre uh, uh, hitter who swung for the fences as he should. None of these are particularly damaging to the university. All of them are helpful to besieged students. And the inability of this major university, from which I have many Jewish and non-Jewish alumni friends, had to be imposed upon them. It had to be done in a way that uh, an objective person who's not been on that campus in decades, but remembers it fondly, uh, would make a Faustian deal with somebody who I would never vote for to bring this result about. My own alma mater did a little better. The irony is that as a junior in high school, Columbia University was my first choice for where to go to college. I did not apply. The reason I did not apply was that in the spring of my senior year, students again had disrupted the campus. The education depends on people being able to think and express themselves without intimidation. The ability to have unpopular positions. Uh, the campus that I eventually attended, and later Columbia, where my friends attended, within a few years of me, uh, became those kinds of places. They were places where um, a committee could invite George Wallace to speak, and there would be jeering signs, but not jeering people. Now you have microaggressions, you have people who you don't like being disinvited or having their faculty positions threatened. And it is coming primarily from people who vote the way I vote, but don't think the way I think. It has to be rescued for the benefit of the students. the university, Columbia, and my own alma mater should have been at the very forefront in doing it. Columbia didn't. My university did probably enough, maybe not as much as they could have done, but when I last visited it, it seemed a peaceful place. It seemed a place where people could go to their classes and not have uh, lectures disrupted, a place where uh, students could walk from the uh, dorm to Shabbos services or to their kosher meals and maintain camaraderie. It's all about who's in charge and the willingness of the people in charge to say that's enough. These are our limits. And if you can't do that, it still needs to be done, but it needs to be done external to the university. So, my fondness for Columbia aside, I have no regrets about having not applied there and attended someplace else. It took 50 plus years to fully understand why. Thanks so much for sharing this settlement, this session of Dr. Plotzker's Mind.